What does breathing have to do with fertility, egg quality, and longevity? I'm going to be covering these topics in today's live stream. And if you're here with me live, please let me know in the chat, where are you joining from? I would love to see who's here with me live. So, we're going to be talking about the physiology of why breathing could make a difference for your fertility, for your egg quality, your health, and well being overall. I'm Dr. Natalie Masson, and I'm a psychologist specializing in the mind body connection. I've had a fascination with the breath since early in my psychotherapy career, when I started doing some independent reading about how, how we can notice shifts in breathing patterns as we're guiding people through emotional processing. So that's when I really started becoming curious about learning more about breathing. And over the years, I've found so many fascinating connections between how we breathe, what's happening in ourselves emotionally, and what's happening physically. In more recent years, I've delved more into learning about fertility and, in particular, egg quality. I explored that out of necessity because when I was trying to conceive our second child, I was 44 and then 45 years old, and I was going through miscarriages that were due to poor egg quality. Now, this is a common thing that occurs. Um, uh, Egg quality issues can happen at any age, but they increase in our as we get toward the latter part of the reproductive window. So typically in your 40s is when you tend to see more issues coming up with egg quality. So that's kind of the professional trajectory of where I have been, what has drawn me to interest in breathing, egg quality, fertility, well, and now longevity. I'm now in my mid 50s, woohoo, and very interested in all different things to have the best quality of life, best health throughout my lifespan. So I'm no longer personally focusing on fertility goals, but given that now I've gone into supporting others on their fertility journey, I'm always looking for different ways to support optimal fertility. So I'll be touching on all these things during this live stream. If you're here with me live, please let me know in the chat, where are you joining us from? And what is your focus? What's your interest? Are you coming to me from a place of focus on fertility? Are you pregnant? Are you focusing on general wellness? These are all different, sectors of my audience that I like to speak to. So let me know if you're here live, where is your interest right now, so that I can also speak to who's here with me live. And I know many more will be watching on the replay. If you're watching on the replay, please comment too, because I do come back and read the comments. Okay, so let's talk about what is the significance of breathing. What is the connection between breathing, egg quality, and longevity? And I'm going to boil things down into very general, basic terms so that we don't get lost in the weeds with the physiology. But in general, we have we're focusing on the powerhouse of the cells in our bodies, and that is the mitochondria. And mitochondria need oxygen to be powerful and to survive. So we're generally talking the link between breathing and our egg quality and our health is oxygenation. So breathing brings oxygen into our bodies, as I'm sure you're well aware. We want oxygen to get into those cells, and the female egg has the highest concentration of mitochondria, has the most mitochondria of any cell in the body, and the mitochondria are what give the egg power to mature properly in the months before ovulation. So a lot of people have this misimpression that your eggs are poorer quality in your 40s simply because they've been around longer. And actually, what's probably more accurate is that the mitochondria in our bodies, our mitochondrial power starts to age out as we get older, and that is responsible for all aging declines. So all different health issues and uh, aging issues can be are partly due to weakening mitochondria. And so when the mitochondria aren't strong enough and it's time for the egg to mature shortly before ovulation, approximately 3 to 6 months before ovulation, we need the power from the mitochondria to help it mature properly. When it doesn't, we end up with chromosomes that are not properly aligned, and that's what leads to miscarriages, chromosomal abnormalities, um, that often are not compatible with life. And so that is the primary issue of why it's harder for women in their 40s to have successful pregnancies. So, if you can follow the breadcrumb trail here, we want to be able to oxygenate those cells so that the cells are well powered so that we can have a good development of the egg so that we can conceive a healthy pregnancy. Same thing for our general health and wellness. All of the decline in our organs and tissues is partly connected to weakening mitochondria as we get older. So, same thing, if you can get oxygenation into your bodies, the oxygen's going to get into your cells. We're going to talk about the details of that. And that is how we can have better health and longevity, better fertility, better egg quality. Okay, let me know in the chat if this is making sense to you. I'm giving a really quick overview of scientifically how this process works. And there's something that is really important to understand that most people don't realize about um, how breathing helps oxygen get to your cells. So the natural assumption is that if oxygen is in the air and we breathe it into our bodies to get it into our bodies, perhaps we need to breathe more to get more oxygen to our cells. And actually, paradoxically, it's the opposite. So when you breathe more, you're actually breathing more than your body needs, and we can go into a state of mild, moderate, or severe hyperventilation. So if you're breathing faster than you need to, you're breathing in oxygen, you're breathing out carbon dioxide, and an imbalance occurs where there's less carbon dioxide than the blood wants to have. And there's a chain reaction that leads, okay, I'm going to get a little technical here. So hang in there with me. When you breathe faster and you're getting hyperventilated, you may feel actual lightheadedness, you may feel tingling in your hands, things like that. But at lower levels, you might not notice those symptoms. Nevertheless, your bloodstream is having a lower level of CO2, and it's something called the Bohr Effect, BOHR, that dictates that when the alkalinity of the blood is at a certain level, the red blood cells that are carrying oxygen will hang on to the oxygen instead of dropping them off and delivering them to the cells. Okay, you can look that up, Bohr Effect, BOHR. So if you're in a more hyperventilated state, you have lots of oxygen in your system, but because there's not enough carbon dioxide in the bloodstream, the red blood cells hold on to the oxygen and don't deliver them to your cells. And that's what leads to hyperventilation symptoms like lightheadedness. Lightheadedness is oxygen's not getting to your brain because oxygen's hanging out in the bloodstream instead of going to the cells. Okay, so we can assume that the same is happening in your ovaries, in your egg cells, that you're not getting the oxygenation there. So this is where I think that if you understand this process, it's really important to pay attention to your breathing process and your breathing pace in particular, not the amount of air you're getting in, but the pacing of your breath, so that you're not interfering with your body's ability to deliver oxygen to your cells, which is where the oxygen is really needed. Do you follow me? Is this too much? Is this too fast? Let me know in the chat if this is making sense. You know what? it's not even that important that you understand all those details if you can take the take-home message, which is we don't need to breathe more to get oxygen to our cells. We actually, most of us probably need to breathe slower. And why are we calibrated as a society to generally be breathing faster? It's because of our chronic stress, fast-pacedness, habits of tensing and holding. There are so many things that lead us to breathe faster than we need to. And that's the connection I talked about earlier between emotions, body, and breath. When you're feeling stressed out, your nervous system is preparing to spring into action, so you're more likely to breathe more quickly. When you're relaxed, your breathing can slow down, everything is calmer, and that's when we have better, slower breathing, deliver oxygen to the cells. Okay, so I see a couple comments in the chat. Barna is saying my AMH level is 0.53 and I'm 38 years old. I live in Bangladesh. Here the doctor said it's difficult to conceive a baby. Please let me know how I can conceive easily. So we interrupt this discussion of breathing for just a moment because I really want to answer this question. I was actually talking about it just yesterday on the live stream about positive thinking. So you can see there, but this question comes up all the time in my fertility circles. I have low AMH. What can I do? The doctors are telling me it's bad news. And I'm just going to refer you to my other videos on here about AMH. Just search on AMH on my channel because it's very much misrepresented that AMH means you won't be able to get pregnant, that you will need to use donor eggs. I got pregnant naturally with very low AMH, below 0.1 when I was 45. Actually got pregnant 3 times at that time, and the third one worked out. So I really encourage you to learn what AMH means so that you're not discouraged by that, and you find people to work with who understand that AMH does not mean that you have poor fertility and that you can't get pregnant. It's just being a misused hormone marker, unfortunately. And I'm going to have to keep ranting about this every day to get the message out there because there are a whole bunch of professionals giving out incorrect information or misleading information about what AMH means. So please don't be discouraged by that. But I do encourage you to find out what else might be the issue for your fertility if you've been trying and you're not conceiving. Sadly, I see a lot of people before they've even started trying to conceive, they get the AMH test done. Maybe they're 35 years old, they're not in a relationship, and all of a sudden they're thrown into a panic because they're hearing the message that they're not going to be able to conceive because their AMH is low. And that's very disappointing to me, to create that stress and trauma before you've even started trying. So see my videos on low AMH, and also not long ago I did a very long video called Fertility Crash Course, and I kind of covered all the important things that I want everyone to know starting out about all the different things that I think matter about your fertility so that you can be educated about where you might where the leverage points might be, what might be the next steps if you aren't getting pregnant easily. Okay, Marnie is asking, would a hyperbaric oxygen therapy be helpful then? I need to learn more about that. I'm going to come back to that question after this session because I don't really know if just getting more oxygen into your system, I'd have to see some research on that. What is the impact of getting more oxygen into your system? Because what I'm talking about here is how no matter how much oxygen you have in your system, if you're breathing too fast, the oxygen just hangs out in your bloodstream and doesn't get to your cells. So I would like to see the research evidence on what was the impact on someone's various health markers, fertility markers, whatever, after doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Barna says, your meditations are soothing. Just a few days ago, I got your meditation. Oh, I'm so glad that you've found my meditations. They're becoming a little harder to find on YouTube, I think, because I haven't published a lot of new content. It's falling to the bottom of the heap in the search results. So I don't think I'm quite as easy to find on YouTube. So I'm delighted to hear that you organically found your way here. There are lots of meditations on this channel. I also have a channel called Harmony Within, where I've shared some content for non-fertility focus, and I intend to continue expanding that channel as well. So let's get back to the specific topic today of how to think about and work with your breathing. If you're on board with me with this idea that we probably don't need more oxygen, we don't need more breathing, we probably need to calm and slow the breathing so that your oxygen can get to the places that it needs to get to. So if you can just hang with me with that, I'm going to explain the next steps, actually through guiding you through a little experiment. So if you're game to try some breathing practices with me, I invite you to do this. And if you're here live, I hope you'll share in the chat how you're experiencing this. So we're just going to do a little demo of what it's like to overbreathe, to breathe too fast. So for the next minute, we're just going to breathe in and breathe out without pausing at all. Okay, so no pauses, somewhat rapid. We're going to do this for 30 or 60 seconds. So let's go ahead and breathe in and out. In, out. No pauses, in and out. Are you noticing any changes? Do you feel different? In and out. No pauses. I feel like I might fall over myself. Big breath in and out. In and out. Okay, if you're still upright, type in the chat. Let me know what you're sensing. I feel lightheaded, just like that. Just like that. I'm hyperventilating. Oxygen getting to my brain is changing, and I feel a little out of it. So let me know. Were you able to reproduce that on your end? Okay, now we're going to go the opposite direction. We're just going to slow it down. So, we overbreathed. Our bloodstream is full of oxygen. Carbon dioxide has been depleted, and we're off balance. So now we're going to go the other way. So just this time, don't intentionally draw a breath in and let it out. We're going to follow the breath into the body and out. And then we're going to pause and wait at the bottom of the exhale. Just wait for the next inhale to come. Whenever it does, I'm not going to tell you when. I want you to just hang out and then notice when it comes. And then when that one comes, you follow it in. Follow it out. Pause, hang out at the bottom of your out breaths. Just hang out. You've got plenty of oxygen. Trust me, you're okay. Unless you have some disorder going on, you have plenty of oxygen. Your body will cue you to breathe again if you need oxygen right now. Okay, so slow breath in. And I don't want you to worry about, chest breath, belly breath, all that. Just forget about that for right now. Just let it come in. We're just focusing on the pace. Let it go out. No pressure. Hang out at the bottom of the out breath. I'm starting to feel more grounded, more clear after that little hyperventilating episode. Let me know in the chat. Are you doing this with me? Are you feeling these effects? Okay. So this slower, lengthened breath is what is going to help balance out tendencies toward overbreathing. Now, is it as simple as that? Just slow your breathing down. Things will be more balanced. You'll be more oxygenated. It's almost as simple as that, but there are many things that interfere with being able to slow your breath down. And if we think about sort of a triad of connection between the mind, the body, let's see, I'm trying to do points of a triangle, the mind, the body, and the breath, connecting them together. All of these things move together because your breathing is impacted by your emotions. So when you're feeling, just think of the last time you were being chased by a monster, or you were late for work, or you were freaking out that somebody told you you have low AMH and you'll never be able to conceive, or whatever thing that makes you feel like, oh my gosh, what happens to your body? What happens to your breathing? Is it slow and lengthy? No, it pulls up. We start to breathe faster when we're nervous, when we're scared, when we feel pressured. So this is just an example of how the mind and the breath move together, and that impacts your body. So the key is getting these parts to all move together. So when we focus on slowing the breath, it's not just about the breath. We have to create a sense of calm and safety, of non-urgency, of I'm going to be okay. And this is easier said than done. Sometimes somebody just tells you those things and you're like, okay, yeah, cool. I'm relaxed now. I can breathe slower. But actually, in reality, we have all kinds of habits baked into our nervous system, practiced in our bodies that tend to keep us into any chronic stress modes that we may have adopted over many years of stressful living. So my solution isn't a 2-second tip. My 2-second tip is invite your breath to be slower without efforting to be slower, just gently inviting it. But there's a much more nuanced set of guidance, and that is really what's embedded in all of my different training programs for mind body well-being. I have a program coming up next week called the 7-day chill out retreat, and I share a variety of practices. Each day I release a new practice that is all centered around calming your nervous system, releasing tensions from your body, shifting these patterns that have probably built up over the course of a lifetime so that you can find your way back to an easeful place anytime you've been accumulating stress in your body. I recommend doing a little something every day to keep recalibrating, keep dialing back to kind of like recenter from all of the day's stressors. There's a whole lot of things in life that are going to lead you to tense up, breathe faster, and feel stress in your system. So there are many different things that you can do to help this along, and I suggest something that is kind of multi-pronged, and that's why I have these variety programs where I show many different ways to approach the issue of stress in your system and shifting your breathing patterns. Okay, let me know in the chat. This group has been fairly quiet in the chat. Let me know what questions you have, what reactions you're feeling in your body just from that tiny little bit of practice that we did. And I'm also going to mention that I have several resources in the description below this video that are related to what we're talking about. One is, if you happen to be watching this live or in the replay before June 16th, enrollment is open right now for the Chill Out Retreat week, where I'm going to be guiding a group through a variety of practices. And we have tracks for fertility, pregnancy, and general wellness, depending on what your focus is at this time. So that's happening. That's a paid program. And there are several free resources I've listed in the description below. One is my 20 strategies for improving egg quality. It's a downloadable PDF. The other resource I shared here is breathing, a slower breathing exercise. That's on my Harmony Within YouTube channel. And it's a 20 or 30-minute guided practice where I guide you through movements and imagery to help you slow your breathing. You count your breathing before you do the practice, and then you count your breathing at the end. And you can read in the comments below that video, like what kind of changes people are seeing as they're doing this exercise. It's actually pretty dramatic what you can learn in a short time. Barna, thank you for commenting. I got the difference. Slow breathing, relaxing me. Great. If you can just take that one message from this lesson today, that's golden. And I don't want anyone to ever try to get to slower breathing. I know that sounds paradoxical, but when you start trying, you're creating stress and pressure, especially if you're anxious at all. Trying to push yourself in a certain direction with your breathing, I find complicates things. So it's this sort of mental trick. There's a little art to it of being able to say, I'm not trying. I'm just opening to the possibility. I'm gently inviting this slower pace. If you try, you're likely going to meet resistance. So just say, okay, I can do this more slowly. I'm fine. I'm safe. And I break that down more in my slower breathing meditation, which you can see the link to. And for fertility, there's a link to my Breathing for Fertility meditation, where we do some of these practices, and a little bit of abdominal massage is woven in there, I believe. So check out those if any of those interest you. Let me know if you have any questions about anything related to breathing, fertility, egg quality, and longevity. I'd be happy to answer any questions at all. And I'll share also that, the way I came to discover the impact of breathing, started with, as a psychotherapist, I'm a psychologist, so I do talk therapy. As a psychotherapist in private practice, I started learning about how the breath is connected with our emotions. And if you're talking someone through something difficult and you can see it in their posture and their breath, and then you can invite them to notice that and soften and breathe through it, it starts changing the associations with what they're talking about. It helps creating that ability to find more ease around what they're talking about, and also just raises insight to what is emotionally charged in you. You start learning how to listen to your own breathing. And as I was, bringing that into my practice, I experiment with everything on myself too. Anything I'm recommending for well-being, I'm trying it on myself to learn what it feels like, how it works inside me. And I noticed that my breathing was high up in my chest, not in my belly at all, except when I'm really focused on moving to my belly. But when I didn't focus on it that way, it would go back up into my chest. And it took a lot of personal experimentation to figure out what was happening there. And it was really part of, long time stress patterns, but also just habits of being taught to suck my belly in and to hold it in tight like that. Gymnastics and ballet was my early experiences through childhood, and there was a lot of sucking in and holding tight. So I had to retrain those muscles, how to let go so that the breath could drop in lower and slower. We didn't talk today about dropping the breath in lower, but I do go into that in some of those videos that I mentioned. Just one piece that I want to share with you about that is that tension in your belly, holding in your belly, sucking in your belly, wearing tight clothes, spandex, denim, tight jeans, all of these things can create constriction around your breathing. So I recommend that you also just bring awareness to your torso as a breathing container, and how can you release constriction around these areas so that your breathing space is more open and flexible. And that can also help with having a nice, full, satisfying breath that's slow and easy and effortless. Okay. I'm going to give a moment to see if there are any questions coming up. I don't see any questions. Well, it's been a pleasure to share this little bit of breathing insight, these connections with you. I hope that you will take this with you. Katya is saying, thank you for this. I tend to hold my belly in. I didn't realize it might be restrictive for my breathing. So glad you're aware of this now. And this is normally when I teach, I call it restorative breathing, restoring your breathing to its most natural and balanced state. When I teach restorative breathing, this is usually where I start, is how to release the tension in the belly, because there's so many things that create it. So it can take a little practice and artfulness to release it, because your body may not be used to that. You may have a lot of messaging around how it's not appropriate to let your belly soften and expand, especially for women. A lot of messaging around that. So there's a bit of a re-education of our mind and our body, our muscle memory, emotional connections, so that you can allow the belly to soften. I talk about it like a happy Buddha belly, so that we can create new associations. Think about a seahorse, nice round, beautiful belly, so that you can let go of this image that your belly needs to be, hard abs, flat belly, in order for you to be healthy and attractive. Soften your belly, let your breath relax into your body so that you can feel more ease all over. So I give you permission to stop sucking your belly in. There's a little nuance there. Look, I just can't stop once you start bringing topics up. It's not that we become flaccid and sloppy through our body. There are muscles that we use to hold up our posture, and those are the transverse abdominal muscles, and they are horizontal. They're not the rectus abdominis that create your washerboard abs. They're the horizontal muscles that you use to cough and sneeze. These are the ones that you use to hold your posture upright. If I relaxed all the muscles of my torso, I would just literally fall over onto the floor. But I use my transverse abdominis muscles to kind of gently hug in and support my posture, but I release the lower abdominal muscles that we use to pull in for a tight belly, so that I'm still upright, my posture is supported, but my belly is still flexible so that the breath can drop down lower. So there's a lot of nuance in here, and I can't cover it all today, but that's just another little tidbit to take with you as you allow yourself to be curious about, what tension might be happening in my belly, and how can I shift that in a way that I can support my posture and allow the breath to drop down more deeply. Varna, I'm happy to have connected with you. Happy to have connected with all who have been here with me live, and I hope that many more will be watching on the replay. Keep the comments coming below this video so that I can hear how you're experiencing this, and please check out those other resources if you'd like some guided practices to take you deeper with this breathing work. All right, take care, everybody. It's been nice connecting with you.